I fear the day the technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. Albert Einstein. Greetings. My name is Joseph Yagar. Welcome to another Life in Perspective broadcast. My objective is to provide thought-provoking discussions so you can optimize your perspective on life. In the 1993 movie Demolition Man, Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock engaged in a steamy love scene that was mind-blowing for both of them. It looked at one point as if their brains caught on fire and erupted in a climactic euphoria, a sensation all of us hope to have when engaging in the art of intimacy. It was surreal. Surreal not because of the erotic nature of their experience, but rather because they were fully dressed, sitting across from each other, with no physical contact and connected through brainwaves emitted by funky headsets that made all of it possible. Like most consumers of entertainment and technologically inept moviegoers of the time, it seemed comical and so far-fetched. Yet here we are, almost 30 years later, and the very same concept I failed to see as a possibility has become a foregone conclusion. Before I continue, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so by clicking the subscribe link below. It's free and would be much appreciated. You may also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The only constant in our life is change, and as the speed of life increases exponentially with each day, it is a never-ending struggle to keep up. I find myself right in the middle between a nostalgic era and an era of detachment. As a child, I grew up with no computers, internet, and cell phones. Today, the notion of life without them is, well, nostalgic. To speak with someone, we either had to pick up the phone or show up at their door. A family dinner meant sitting together and engaging in conversation. A show of affection meant a hug and a kiss and a look in the eye with a smile. Televisions had a handful of channels, video games were at their infancy and too expensive for most families. The media actually reported real news, and the weather report meant looking out the window and going about your life regardless of it. Nowadays, we are trapped in a worldwide web of distraction. Heaven forbid the Wi-Fi signal takes longer than a nanosecond to kick in, not to mention lose the signal. Newborns are delivered with cell phones attached, and the look on their face when asked to relinquish possession is stopped only by the painful grunt that accompanies it. To them, it literally feels like an amputation. Family dinners is mostly a foreign concept, and hanging out with friends and colleagues means texting rabbit ears and whiskers on Snapchat across the table, while a show of affection means air kisses Kardashian style in an endless row of GIFs and emojis. It gets worse. Research shows that about a third of sexual partners, married or otherwise, check their cell phones either during or immediately after sex. We are losing the art of interaction. Don't get me wrong, progress is inevitable, and technology is a reflection of the endless possibilities the human mind is capable of. However, as much as you hear it said that we are the ones in control, we are losing that battle more and more. We are creating the very technology that will render more and more of us obsolete and void of humanity. If older generations don't instill and endear the basic human skills of interaction we so admired for centuries, we will continue to become a shell of a bygone era, an era that is vital to our survival. As much as I recognize the need for progress and continue to be a student of how to use it productively, I must admit I feel resistance to it at every turn. I didn't start using social media until my 50s and quickly became aware of the suction effect it has if one is not careful, and so I created strict parameters around its use to make sure my exposure is relevant to my objectives in life. What's interesting is that the creators and distributors of these platforms openly admit that they don't let their own children be exposed to what they sell to our children every minute of every day. They don't get high on their own supply. I don't blame new generations born into a technological revolution that evolves at warp speed. That is what they get exposed to and must navigate for better or worse. However, it is, in my opinion, incumbent upon earlier generations to instill traditional values such as social etiquette, clear and effective communication skills, and a healthy dose of self-worth and confidence in a social setting. I am set to say that the ability to hide behind a screen leaves a lot to be desired, not to mention strips one of the ability to express oneself coherently when in the presence of others. Let's face it, if you spend most of the day communicating in acronyms, emojis, and GIFs with little to no eye contact, how are you supposed to put a literate sentence together without using endless fillers and look someone in the eye? And nowadays, with schools closed and e-learning becoming the norm, how is that helping? It's supposed to keep kids safe from something far less dangerous than the damage created by the isolation. And so, if this is the eroding legacy of interaction being passed through the generations, it isn't long before we become overrun by our own creation and our invisible strings pulled without us even knowing by who and how we got there. This war has long started and we are losing it, socially, technologically, politically, and economically, and it's taking no prisoners. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream that we will be judged by the content of our character. I somehow doubt he meant our social media profile. It's time to reintroduce time-tested traditions of etiquette, self-respect, offline social skills, and independent thought before we unleash new eager generations into the digital space to be overwhelmed by its influence before they even have a chance to survive it. They are better off being knocked around by life among the living than being dismantled digitally right before our eyes. So the next time you pick up that mobile device, let alone let the children do it, ask yourself, how will this improve my life and that of my loved ones? What will I gain that is worth sharing with them? Will it make me healthier or more knowledgeable? Think of your mind as a Google search engine. The keywords and queries you enter will generate the answers you feed your mind. What do you want these to be? Can these possibly be better accomplished through in-person interaction instead? Is it worth losing what is real, chasing what only appears to be? Please like, subscribe, and share this video, and let me know what topics you would like my perspective on in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.